Good morning, students. Still 20 more students need to join. So, welcome to today's session. Before commencing today's session, let us remember Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam on this day. Today is a day of remembrance. We will observe 1 minute silence. Yeah, thank you. Let us commence the session. So, today we are going to discuss a topic such that the topic has a role in all the units, but it has more influence in the second unit. So that is the reason why in the front slide that I have marked unit 1/2, as well as some of the miscellaneous features which are added in the subsequent versions of Java. That's also need to be focused because the recent online platforms and the upgraded IDEs for Java, these features are being implemented, but utilization of these features from the academics community is very less. Okay, to expose such things only, I have incorporated these features here. Okay, so that could be the idea. So before getting into the session, let us recap what we have seen in the previous sessions through MCQs. Please respond through your answers in the chat box. What is true about private constructor? The meaning private means that you can able to access within the class. Private constructor ensures only one instance of a class exists at any point of time. Private constructor ensures multiple instances of a class exist at any point of time. Private constructor array eases the instantiation of class. Private constructor allows creating objects in other classes. Okay, I think what could be the options that we are ready to receive? No options still now. What is true about private constructor? Only the first point. Okay, because multiple instances cannot be created. Whenever the object is created, only one constructor will get to be invoked. Okay, so private constructor uses the instantiation of the class. There is no much difference over on that because using private you can't do that corresponding thing. Private constructor allows creating objects in other classes. The term private.
Sir, you are not audible. Sir, voice is not audible, sir.
How about now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Okay, sir. Okay, sir. It is audible now.
So what is true about a private constructor? So private constructor ensures only one instance of a class exists at any point of time. The rest of these three options will not behave as it is. Private means it represents that it could be accessible within the class. It's not outside the class. So ultimately, option D will be ruled out. Instantiation process is common for all types of classes. So option C is also ruled out. Multiple instances of a class cannot be able to exist at any point of time. Okay, it is going to be a constructor invocation will map with only one object. Okay, so ultimately multiple instances cannot come over on that. So option A is the best one. It is true about class dot get instance. You have four options to work with. Even I suggest to students to travel further apart from your regular sessions. What is the topic that has been dealt today in the session? What are all the things apart from the contents what teacher had delivered? That you have to go and travel further. From that, you could have some doubts and clarifications. You can post it in the subsequent session. Teacher will give you clarification. So, what could be the option for this? No options. Class.getInstant creates object if class does not have any constructor. This is the one which will talk about your default constructor. Okay. Class.getInstance creates object if class does not have any constructor. Okay. That's the ultimate aim of this class.getInstance. This could be what do you call a behind the screen task. Class.getInstance calls the constructor now, right? Whenever the object is created, constructor gets invoked. That is not the job of class.getInstance. Class.getInstance is used for dynamic memory allocation. That's also wrong. Okay, class.getInstance needs to have matching constructor. It is not going to perform any types of message communication, or it is not going to perform the duty of a copy constructor. No, it's not going to do that. So ultimately option A, B, C will be ruled out. So only the option is default constructor could be invoked by this method. Class.getInstance thing. See, in some places, default constructors could not be invoked. I'll tell you why. Because even though if you have not used a constructor, constructor will be available in your program whenever that you are going to create the object. That is the basic truth. But when we are going to work with embedded systems, when we are going to work with PLC based systems, in that case, you have a component called a watchdog timer, which will be used for resetting whenever the devices get to be stuck. So in that cases, if I have my Java application available on such type of devices, whenever I am going to reset my devices, it is ready to start the process from beginning. So in that case, every time default constructor invoking will may result in some sort of memory or dangering errors. Okay, memory leak errors. So to avoid that only, class.getInstance will be fabricated along with the Java application, which is going to port into any IIoT based applications. So likewise, we could able to control. That's a very interesting use case. Use cases are available for this method. What is true about constructor? For this thing, you have to respond. Might be first two things are very tough. I know that, especially for EEE students, you felt some more tough. But you have to travel along with the Java. That will help you a lot when you are going to work with your high voltage engineering. You could able to develop lot of interesting applications using Java. For Java, pertaining to high voltage engineering, along with the neural networks, you have some implementation. Ready-made packages are available. You could able to use it. I could able to forecast the load. Okay, likewise, such type of interesting applications are there. Yes, what could be the answer for 3? People are posting B and D. Yeah. So what's the answer? It's ultimately B. Constructor is a special method, but it doesn't have any return type. Okay, doesn't have. So option A is ruled out. It can have any non-access modifiers. Modifiers, there is no role of modifiers. Okay, modifiers means we have a set of modifiers available: private, public, protected. Okay, these are all the preliminary modifiers that we will be using with all types of methods and classes. Shamini ma'am will give you a detailed review while she is going to handle inheritance on these topics. Option D, constructor cannot throw an exception. Okay, so ultimately constructor could be able to throw an exception because a class, a user-defined class could be able to throw an exception. A built-in class could ready to throw an exception. It is possible. The class could be able to throw an exception. Ultimately, constructor could be able to throw an exception. It is possible, but they said it is not possible. So option A, C, D are ruled out. We are talking about parameterized constructor. You can pass any number of arguments. Even you could be able to pass variable arguments also. Okay, any number of arguments you could be able to pass. Question number 4. What would be the behavior if one parameterized constructor is explicitly defined? Please understand and respond. What would be the behavior if one parameterized constructor is explicitly defined? Explicitly defined means that we have mentioned it in the program. Yes. Options are no further options. People started to think, I think so. Today we are getting very less responses. See, Monday is the day that we have to begin. Today is the day that we need to remember Abdul Kalam. Today is Remembrance Day, right? What could be the option again? Still people are posting B. Ultimately, the option is D. Okay, very good. Compilation succeeds. Most of them conveyed that very good. But you know, at the cost of why it got succeeds, because default constructor will be there. It will work. Okay, but ultimately there will be a ambiguity will come between default constructor and parameterized constructor. In that class will behave in a we could be able to use the term in a malfunctioned way. Okay, so ultimately it will throw an exception. Here they have mentioned as error, but I could be able to convey it like this. It is ready to throw some exception. Okay, so compilation will succeed, but after compilation only these constructors will get into an ambiguity state. Default constructor as well as the parameters constructor. Who is going to execute now? What is the order of priority? In that they will get to confusion. By that it will throw a compilation error. Like they mentioned, it will ready to throw an exception. And next, what would be behavior? The constructor has a return type. If it has a return type, it's a assumption question. Okay, please remember that it is assumption question. And I want to convey a point here. If I want to do anything with a constructor using object only, I could be able to do that. Okay, in the copy constructor, I could be able to see that the duty of one constructor is going to be performed through another constructor by passing object as the argument. By the principle of message communication, it will happen. Message communication is one of the OOPS concept. Okay, how the objects are communicated between each other. Normally you have studied as call by value and call by references in C and C++. But in object oriented programming, it was being replaced by message passing. So what's the answer? I'm getting very delayed outputs. Compilation error. Okay. Ultimately, it's a compilation error only, right? So I'm going to fix up a return type. What will happen? It will not execute. Okay. So runtime errors won't. It would be compilation and run successfully. Only string return type is allowed. So although A, B, C, D are completely ruled out. Why we are talking only about compilation error in constructor? Because during the point of compilation only, whenever the object is created, constructor gets invoked. This process will happen during compile time only. When you are going to use Java C file name.java, during that time only it will happen. That is the reason why anything relevant to constructor has to happen, means that will happen within the compilation time itself. It will not take it afterwards. That is the reason why. If you are going to take anything afterwards, after compilation, ultimately it will throw an exception only. That's what we have seen in the previous question. So please remember that whatever the operations that you want to do using compiler, that you can plan within the compilation time itself. No need to carry it up to the last minute. That will generate you some runtime error. Okay, so that's the idea behind this. Right, let us get into today's session. I think we have made a very big recap. Please remember this, a very important question relevant to training and placement, Anna University examination, and wherever you go, if you know that, if you have mentioned that I know object oriented programming, they will ask this question: what is the base class for all the available built-in and user-defined classes in Java, C++, any object-oriented language? Okay, so in that case, your answer will be object. Not only for specific to open source softwares, but even for proprietary softwares also. If you go for Visual C++, Visual C++.net, in that you are having two APIs are available. One is SDK, second one is MFC, Software Development Kit, Microsoft Foundation classes. SDK will be like C programming. MFC will be like your C++ programming. For all those things, the base class is C object. Okay. So likewise, if we take any programming language relevant to object orientation, ultimately object is the base class for all the available classes in the respective programming language. So even in Java, object is the base class for the, or object is the, we could able to use the term like this: object is the super class for the all the available built-in and user-defined classes in Java. Okay, so instead of using the term base class, I am using super class, because that is the terminology that you have to use in Java. So in C++, we will be using base class. Here we have to use super class. In C++, we will be using derived class. We have to use the term subclass. So that is the main difference here. Okay, so to represent that only this diagram that I have given. Okay, but directly from this object, I could able to invoke some methods and work. Here in the next slide, I'm going to show you some set of methods. Please go through those methods. Those methods we will see very detailed in the forthcoming chapters. But please know that if any question relevant to this has been asked related to object in second unit, remember object in second unit, you have to write only these things. Okay, so no need to write a lot number of things for this question. That is the reason why I introduced this topic here itself, because already we have seen class and object in first unit. So to continue with that, I am handling this topic. So these are all the methods which are readily available for us directly from the object. Okay, so I have given the description. Okay, so here you have 11 methods are there. I will tell you the classification where these methods will come. So by that you could able to, we will visualize in the later stages. So get class. Okay, get class means it is ready to give me what are all the contents of the class, what are all the variables are there, what are all the methods are there available in the class. I could able to get it. Next, hash code. So hash code is nothing but using a algorithmic steps or using some mathematical steps. It will generate a unreadable code. Okay, so that's what hash code. People who are very familiar with the hashing. So a simple example of hashing is, so I will take a number, square that number, I will get a value. In that place, I am going to store an element. Okay, 5 square 25. The location 25, I could be able to store the element. So the process of squaring is termed is used for hashing that value. For example, I'm going to store 15 in the location 25. How 25 is arrived? 5 square, which is going to be 25. Okay, such a type of hashing algorithms will be involved to generate this hash code. An example. Next, equals method, how to compare two objects. So this is not available in C++. Please remember, from Java only it has been introduced. Equals, it is used to compare two objects. Next one, clone. You have a clone method. We will see in detail also regarding clone. We are having shallow cloning and deep cloning. Cloning is nothing but I am ready to replicate the functionality of the same object. Okay, so that's the thing. Next, toString. So I could able to convert a data type into the data type string. So string is again a derived data type in Java. Okay. Notify all, wait. Then you have some wait. Then you have some wait. So wait with one argument, wait with two arguments, wait with no arguments. So this notify all, three versions of wait. All those things will come in your multi-threading. Okay, multi-threading within the single program, more than one flow of control will play it. For example, you have 10,000 numbers are there. I am going to divide it into 1,000 numbers, likewise 10 clusters I will form, and I will create 10 objects. All these 10 objects will work parallelly on these 10 functions and it will perform sorting. This is an example for multi-threading. Okay, so in the same way, that it need to do. So we will see elaborately what all these methods will do. Okay, just to understand the purpose, and you need to write only these 11 methods. Finally, you are having finalize. Okay, so it's a method that we'll be using when we are going to work with the memory management or garbage collection. So these 11 methods that you need to write when they have asked about class object. These are all the methods are available. This is the functionality of this method. It's enough for you to represent. Okay, so please remember this. That's something to be noted. The next keyword, I want to stress about this keyword. Okay, strict FP. What is this strict FP? FP means floating point. Floating point. You have to use this keyword when you are going to, for example, you are carrying out some scientific project. In that, you are going to work with a number of precision after decimal point. Make sure that you are going to retrieve 9 digits after decimal point. It need to be retrieved wherever you are going to execute. That means I am using this application currently in Windows. Later stage, I am going to install this in my lab in the Ubuntu operating system. Later on stage, I'm going to install this in my laptop, which is supporting Mac OS. Okay, so wherever I am going to port my application, already Java is having the feature of platform independency. Okay, so who are all the people supporting for that? So this is one of the character which will support for that. This is one of the keyword which will support for that. I need to prefix the corresponding variable or method or class using this keyword strict FP, strict floating point. So wherever you go, if you execute, you will get the same result. Okay, so that is the reason that it need to be used, this keyword. This keyword is an important feature from Java 8 only. Previous version don't have this keyword. Okay, so please remember this keyword is very important. People who are moving for higher studies, you must know these features, because when you are going to develop, ultimately Java will play a vital role in your life, on your career. Okay, so in that cases during higher studies you need such type of inputs so that you could able to do your research study in a perfect way. So these are all some of the inputs for this. So please remember that strict FP keyword is used whenever we are going to port the application which involves some floating point operations which need to yield the exact accuracy that has to be unique in all the platform that I need to use this. So please remember this strict FP keyword. Next one is inner class. What is this inner class is going to talk about? So inner class means class within the class. Okay. So what we are going to do in inner class? So what we are going to study here? So whenever I'm going to give class within the class means I'm dividing the modules into sub-modules. That's all. Where the difference will come, the way of accessing the nested class, the class which is available within the class, how we are going to access. There are varieties of inner classes are available. We are going to see one by one. See the first category. Java member inner class. Okay, member inner class. See here you have two classes. Outer class is test member outer one. Inner class is the name of the class itself inner only. Okay, so it is a user defined. There is no keyword inner. Okay, it's a user defined. Check the main function. What I am doing, I am creating object for the outer class. Okay, test member outer one. I have created an object obj. How I am accessing the inner class? Check that. Test member outer one, outer class name dot. Again, inner class name inner I have given. So outer class dot inner class space object. I have created the object for the inner class now. Now how I am going to access? See that? That's the again this is a syntax line. So please remember that. Outer class name dot inner class name space an object which is equal to outer class object. So this in is the inner class object. Outer class object dot new keyword space inner class name. That is a major thing that you need to understand. So the second line in the main function will play a vital role. Outer class name dot inner class name space inner class object which is equal to outer class object dot new inner class name. This could be my general syntax. If I am going to access this, I could able to get the data available within the class. Using inner class only, I am using the inner class object only, I am accessing the method MSG. Finally, it is going to print my data. Okay, this is member inner class. How I am accessing, that's the only syntax will vary here. Next one. Local inner class. What is this local inner class? What's the difference between the previous one and current one? Just to go through this. Here within the class I have given another class. Now here you could be able to see within the class there is a method display. Within the method display I have given a class. Yes, you got it. That's the difference between member class and a member inner class and a local inner class. In member inner class, class is available within the class, but here class is available within the method of the outer class. Okay, so that's what here we have given. Local inner, it is the outer class. Display is the method available inside the outer class. Okay, local is the inner class which is available inside the display method. That is the thing which has been prescribed over there. So to avoid a lot of confusions, come to the main method. What they did, local inner one obj equal to new local inner one. So what they did, they have created object for the outer class alone. Okay, outer class alone, because it is enough to access the contents of a class. This is the basic study about our object. To access the contents of the class, it is enough to create an object. Object is used to access the contents of the class. Here within the class we have a method. That's all. That's the main wrap here. So it is enough to access the method. By default it will execute. That's what here it has been thrown over there. But inside that what we wrote, inside the display method what we wrote, just to go through and observe. For the class local I have created the object over there. that made the display method to be executed. So class local has a method called message. I print something. So again, what is happening over there? Local L equal to new local. I am creating the object for the inner class. Using that object, I am accessing the method. That's all. .msg. That's all. So the object creation and the complete contents are available within the display method. It is enough to call the display method using outer object. That is what local inner class. Okay, I think you could be able to identify the difference between member inner class and local inner class. Next, inner class with the local variable. Okay, inner class with the local variable. The main priority is here. What's the difference between previous one and this one is here I am giving the value here. Okay, here I want to differentiate the data members, usage of data members. The same process happened between previous program and current program. Within display, you are having a class. Here also within display, you are having a class. But apart from that, what you have? You have a variable called a value. Okay, so which is going to be executed. So the priority will be given for the value available within the display method, right? So obj.display will ready to be invoked. So here also in the main method, you could able to see that it is ready to work with simple objects only. I am creating an object for the outer class. That's all. Using that object, I am accessing the method outside the. I am accessing the method which is available inside the outer class. That's all. The method is having its own class, object creation, etc. That's it. Okay. So ultimately, what it will fetch? It will fetch the value of the int value 50. It is ready to display the value 50. Difference between previous program and this program is in display. Here we have used a method. Here we have used a variable also, but here we have not used. That is the difference between local inner class and a local inner class with a local variable. So we could able to use a local variable also here. So that is the idea behind this. Static nested class. We know the purpose of static. Without creating the object, I think Gayatri ma'am have given a very good explanation on the day. Without creating the object, if I need to access the contents of any class, I have to use the keyword static. A very good example is main method. If you check the main method, we don't have any object to be created to access the main method. We could able to access directly without creating any object. So that is the purpose of the keyword static. Here I have given a static variable and I have a static inner class. So how I am going to access? See that the main method, I am creating the object for the outer class dot I am accessing inner class space obj. This obj represents the object for the outer class only. Object for the outer class only, because the class is made as static. The class is made as static. Please remember, the class is made as static. So it can be invoked by default. New outer class name dot inner class. Outer class name dot inner class name. That's it. So using the outer class object only, I am accessing the MSG. I am not I have not created any object for the inner class, because inner class is static. Please understand the point. I have not created any object for inner to access the MSG. As per the knowledge of us, what we have to do to access the contents of a class, we have to create an object. That object is not from inner class here, because it is static. No need to create an object for that, but we have created an object for the outer class. Using that object only, I am accessing the inner class, because we are using inner class. We are using nested class. That is the reason why it is ready to work on that. So ultimately it will print data is 30. Why I have discussed these four things continuously? Because using these four things, you will get questions in campus interviews. Irrespective of Wipro, for all the companies, they will test you on this. How are you good in class and object? To test that, they will give this program. Right? So that's the reason why on your lecture time, please copy this program. Anyway, I will post these slides in our Google Classroom. Download it, copy these programs, paste it in online platforms, copy it and execute it and see that you could able to see a different variations why it has been given over on that. Okay, so that's a major idea on this inner classes and importance of inner class 2. Command line arguments, right? What is this command line arguments? I could able to execute in the command line itself. So in the first day that I have shown you an execution that how to execute a Java program. So how I will execute the colon / Java C file name dot Java. Next what I will do, class Java class name. So likewise I will execute and I will show you. Okay, so in that case, how I will give input for my program. This is a stage 1. Normally you will give input through, for example, the input statement in C language is scanf. In C++ we have cin. In Python you have input. So likewise you have some functions are available. In direct stage we have in Java, these command line arguments are available. These command line arguments are available in C, C++, in Python also, right? Due to the simplicity of the function, it has been taught you in the beginning stage itself. But to know how to get the input for a Java program, you need to wait till stream is going to be discussed, because in IO stream only you could be able to know how to get the input for the program. Prior to that, you could be able to learn about this command line arguments. Okay, most of them will ask what is the purpose of this string args within this main. When we are going to use command line arguments in our program, the role of string args will come here ultimately. Okay, so what you are going to give, that will be generated as output. I will show you in the execution. So this is used to display whatever I have given in the command line as it is. For example, how I will execute means Java C file name dot Java, it will execute. Again Java class name, I will give RIT. So what is output will come? Your first argument is RIT. Likewise. So during interpretation, I will give the input. The input will be parsed along with the program and will generate it. So here I could able to give whatever. So this is used to generate only one output. To generate multiple outputs, this program will work. I'll show you how it is going to be executed at the end of the session. Next, instance of operator. So this is an important operator. Probably the complete set of operators will be dealt by Aarti ma'am for you. But anyway, it is something related to class and object. That is the reason why I have mapped this topic here. Instance of. What is the purpose of this instance of operator? Whether this object belongs to this class or not, to identify that this could be used. Okay. So I think this operator is far from your end. It says something to be meaningless, right? Simple one, S equal to new simple one. That's what we have seen. S is the object of simple one. To know that, why do we need such type of things? No, it is not in the case, right? So when a place which is having to work with more on big data, where we need to create number of objects to identify. A very good example is the place where I could able to see the working functionality of this instance of operator is the complete automation of nuclear reactor, the complete automation of petroleum well. In that case, the shift operator will change for every 6 hours or 8 hours. So what the previous operator have did, that will be identified using this instance of only, because the shift operator will create object using his initials and the corresponding date and time. Okay, so for every operation that he will do like that. So in that case, if any malfunction have happened when the new operator gets into his time, in that case, how he will identify from where the operation instantiation got mistake. So how to identify using that object signature only they will identify. In that case, in which component it got malfunction, that will be identified using this object only. That should be retrieved using instance of. Okay. So in a very simple sentence, that if I want to convey, when more number of objects are involved to identify the object which is malfunction or which is need to be referenced, that can be identified using this instance of operator. Okay, so ultimately it will return only Boolean values. Boolean means it will return either true or false. And other some of the interesting things in the new features of Java is, if I want to print the date, so you have some interesting function. Local date, that's a class. Dot now, that is a method which will fetch you the today's date. Next, you have minus days of 1, current date minus 1, plus days of 2, current date plus 2. It will give the information about day after tomorrow. Okay, so likewise you have some built-in classes are available. So built-in class is local date. So using that, I could able to print or manipulate with the dates. Still, people will be writing this program, leap year program, C++, or any other program language if you go. But Java has the built-in method to find out if you have supply a date, it will check that the date is leap year or not. Ultimately, it will return true or false. The date has been given in the format. Okay, so local date dot of. So within that, I have passed the argument. Argument is year, comma, month, comma, date. So what I will check, date 1 is the object of local date is leap year. Ultimately, it will return true or false. Okay, if it is a leap year, it will return true. If it is not leap year, it will return false. Local time. So it is ready to give the time in the IST format. Okay, so local time. So this is something called the zone. Right? So how to compute the local time? Further, why I have shown this program is most of the hackathon for the application to run, to identify the time zone and to identify the difference between your time zone and their time zone. Because last year we have participated in a hackathon organized by California University. In that case, myself and along with the 2 alumni of IT department have participated in that. Mandatorily, we have to run this program because the server which is running in the California University, the time lag is there. Time lag between Indian server and their server. So that also must be computed by the application itself. Okay, do you understand that? That also must be computed by the application itself. Application should not depend on anything. Okay, so complete service must be available within the application itself. So that's a role that fog computing is going to emerge. Okay, so in that case, application must understand its environment. For that, what it will do, from where application is currently running, where it need to be pointed out, that must be subtracted, and it need to generate the difference between the 2 time zones that has been given over there. So based upon the difference, current application must adjust to their time zone and it need to work. So to identify the difference between 2 time zones, this program will be helpful. We are identifying the time zone difference between Tokyo and Calcutta. So parallelly, if you want to find out the date and time, this can be used. Okay, local date and time. So we have a class called clock. This is also available in Java. So here it is retrieved Asia Kolkata. In this slide, you could able to see. Likewise, if you execute this, it will show you the result for your system. What is your current zone? It will ready to get it back. Java shell, J shell, it is also a tool which is available in the future. Likewise, your Python terminal, that what you will work in your Python lab, Python terminal. So likewise, an interpreter based tool is available in Java 8 also. Okay, so these are all the things that I need to discuss with. During the subsequent session, I will show you how to execute a command line arguments. Otherwise, I will shoot as a separate video and I will share it in your groups. Okay, so if you have any clarifications that you could able to post it on the chat box.